My name is Efren Peña. I'm the campus pastor here at Southfields, Santa Clarita, and it's truly an honor to have you hanging out with us this morning. We know that you have plenty of places you can choose to do life and worship and hang out, but the fact that you're here blesses us. The fact that you're here, we are honored and privileged by that. My heart's prayer is that you would enjoy your time with us today here, that God would inspire you and encourage you through His Word and lead you to live a little bit different than you have before you stepped in here. And so it is Family Month 2023, as Noah shared a little while ago. It's such an important month for us. We try to put the best month together possibly in between patio parties and the message. And we are in week 2 of our new series, Rosters, right? As I said last week, I think so much of what we all are trying to do with our lives today can feel impossible. What that's being a good person, or battling our anxieties, or keeping our marriages together, or raising our kids well, or not slapping our coworkers, right? All of that can feel impossible at times, right? And the truth of the matter is that we need help. We need help, right? We can't do this all by ourselves. Even Jesus needed a team of 12 to pull off his mission, and he was God. And so you're going to need at least a starting 5, a solid starting 5. And so if you're on your team, who are the other 4? Who are the other 4 on your team? Who's on your roster, right? And here's the thing, just like on a basketball team, you don't just need 4 players, you need 4 specific types of players to fill different roles and round out your team for the better, right? They cannot all be the same, right? You need certain skills and specialties, people with certain skills and specialties. Like if you had a team of all little people on your starting 5, like it'd be difficult to win a game, right? And so you need them to have different skills and specialties, right? They have to bring different things to the table, which means that you're not just looking for quality, you're also looking for diversity. If you want to be a well-rounded, healthy person in life, right, the team you put around you needs to be as diverse as possible, okay? People with varied experiences, attitudes, ages, politics, and even theologies, right? You need the right people around you to help you do what you need to be. You need the right people around you to help you be what you need to be for them. So who are these people? Who are these people that you need to surround yourself with? This is what these next few weeks are going to be about. We need a ride or die, right? That was last week's person. We need a ride or die, right? We need a coach. We need a sparring partner, and we need a protege. And this week we're going to talk about the fact that we need a coach. How many of you have coached before? Raise your hand. Right, at some capacity, right? How many of you are like wannabe coaches? You're like the one on the sideline trying to tell people what to do. Yeah, I get that, right? So let me start off by this. Have you or your kids ever been excited about something, but you didn't really know how to do it? Super excited about something, getting something, being a part of something, but you didn't really know how to do it. You take your kids to the first practice or music, sports, whatever it is, and you realize that your kids are the only one who haven't played before, right? And you don't know, they don't have a clue what they're doing. And you are like, oh my gosh, my kid has never done this before. No, who didn't teach my kid how to do this? I didn't teach my kid how to do this, right? And this isn't just a kid thing either, right? You can tell when people haven't had any guidance in a variety of environments and situations. Someone comes to your house and they don't know about manners. Like I remember, like this is funny, a funny story. This is way back. I remember Monica and I coming over from New York, and we were just starting to plug into a church. I wasn't a pastor back then, and we were part of the leadership team of the youth ministry. And we go to the youth pastor's house, and Monica and I just sit there just like, okay, cool. And then in come all these other leaders, and they kick off their shoes at the door, and they just jump on the sofa, and they're just like literally feet, like one guy's laying down on the sofa, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like people really, like put your feet down. Like, this ain't your house. This ain't your sofa. Your feet stink, by the way, right? Like, if these manners, and I'm like, what is going on? Or maybe it's someone in a court situation who insists on representing themselves, but clearly has no idea what they're doing. Or someone coming to South Hills for the very first time in a suit and tie, right? Crossing themselves and asking if they can speak to the priest after the mass. You clearly have not been here before, right? Friends, there are only two ways to learn how to do things. Number one, there's the personal trial and error, right? Which is painful, expensive, and can take forever. And then there's the build on the best practices of others, right? We find someone further along on the journey who can download their knowledge into us and fast track us this learning curve. Right? People that have been there before, done that before, people that we can learn from. And we tend to think experience is the best teacher, but it always isn't. Other people's experience is the best teacher. Here's the point. We all need a coach, and maybe a few coaches. But at the very least, we need someone, right, that we can look up to, who offers wisdom and guidance and challenges you and expands your limits. We need that someone. In fact, this is one of the most common pieces of wisdom that comes up over and over in Scripture. Proverbs 15:22 says, plans go wrong for the lack of advice. Proverbs 9:9, instruct the wise and they will be wiser. Proverbs 10:17, ignoring instruction causes you to go astray, right? And they all speak into the fact that we need to seek out wisdom. So, then why doesn't everyone seek out a coach? Well, I think it's maybe because the fact is it may be wise, but it doesn't always feel good. Does that make sense? It may be wise, but it doesn't always feel good. Most of us don't like being critiqued. We don't like being challenged. We don't like being told what to do. So we don't find a coach. We don't find someone who's experienced and lived through things because we don't want to hear what they got to say, because we don't want to be challenged. We don't want to be told what to do or critiqued on how we're doing it. My wife and I talk about this a lot, right? We talk about how sometimes as parents, right, we have our own kids, and sometimes we don't want to hear what our parents have to say. They're like, this is my baby, I got it. I know what I'm doing, right? And sometimes our kids feel like they know everything. Like they know everything. They don't need their parents for no wisdom or insight. I'm like, oh, yes, you do. Yeah, you do, right? If the thought of coaching makes you uncomfortable, I bet you've had some bad experiences with authority figures that were aggressive, that were abusive, that were insensitive, that were cold or condescending or controlling, dismissive, right? On and on with the list. Things like when you come into a room, everyone tenses up waiting to see what mood they're in. You're starved for encouragement, but constantly being told everything that you do is wrong. Wins are never celebrated, but mistakes are punished to an extreme. You're paranoid, anxious, and insecure, right, in their presence, as opposed to feeling bolstered, reassured, and resourced when they come around. They don't have conversations. They give lectures and will punish you if you don't take their advice. Because ultimately, your goals aren't as important as their goals for you. They don't make suggestions as much as they make demands. And if you're resistant or you mess up in any way, they'll light a fire under you through manipulation or humiliation. Some of you are here today and are like, yeah, that's exactly it, Pastor. You're picturing certain people or instances where these things were true. And just thinking about them makes you cringe. Which is why when I say we all need a coach, you're like, no thanks, I'm good. But that's not what I'm wanting to focus on this morning. In fact, let me give you a picture of what a good coach looks like. This is the role that you need someone to fulfill in your life. Exodus 18:5 gives us a story of Jethro, who is Moses' father-in-law. And it says, Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, now came to visit Moses in the wilderness. He brought Moses' wife and 2 sons with him, and they arrived while Moses and the people were camped near the mountain of God. So this guy, right, is invested enough in Moses' life that he travels to where he's at just to catch up with him about life. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a positive exchange, right? Because how many of you if you heard your father-in-law is on his way and he wants to talk to you, are starting to say, oh boy, oh God, this may not be a good thing, right? And how many of you have had a father-in-law who would drive 10 hours one way just to tell you how great you are and how well you are doing and raising your family and how proud of you they are? Probably not a lot, right? But here's what happens. In verses 7 and 9, he tells us that they meet up. They catch up, they share stories, and they're sharing their ups and their downs. And so right off the bat, we see that Moses likes, admires, and trusts, and is absolutely comfortable being around his father-in-law. Jethro lets Moses do most of the talking. He's not lecturing Moses whatsoever. He's asking him about his life and is there intently listening, which is a good trait of a good coach, by the way. You see, James 1:19 reminds us to be quick to listen and slow to what? Speak, yes. So Moses tells him all of the really good things, right? But he also feels safe enough to tell him everything that hasn't gone well, and what he's frustrated about and insecure and overwhelmed by. Jethro takes the time to celebrate all of the good stuff and encourage him, and also to sit in the weight of the bad stuff and validate him as well. Now, Jethro doesn't just show up and start giving advice, right? To Jethro, Moses is a person, not a project. He doesn't give unsolicited advice. Moses invites him to give insight by sharing everything that's going on with him. Right? Friends, a good coach can only help you to the extent that you're honest about what's really going on with you. Does that make sense? Right? Like, how many of you have been asked, man, how you doing? And you go, I'm good. But you really don't feel good. Right? That's not how you really feel. And depending on who that person is and how they're related to you and how you perceive who they are will determine how honest you are with them. Just like a doctor cannot prescribe to you the correct medication if you're lying about half of your symptoms. I'm not saying you do that, but some of you have. A good coach is someone that you can be completely honest with and tell everything to and trust that they're going to have the emotional intelligence to kindly meet you where you're at. I think it's so important that Jethro just listens to and validates how Moses feels before troubleshooting problems or suggesting solutions. I have a tendency of, like, when people are talking to me, sometimes I'm like, I'm already trying to think of how to fix what's going on. And a good coach will sit there and listen, right? In fact, he spends a good amount of time encouraging Moses about where he's getting things right before he addresses anything that's going on that's wrong. And because Moses knows this guy is sincere and doesn't blow smoke, his encouragement means the world to him. He values what Jethro is saying. And it's brilliant because, friends, we are less likely to take advice from people that we're not sure see any good in us. Right? And honestly, these are the first two things that we want to look for in a coach, right? These are the first two characteristics, right? Well, number one, that they generally like you, right? That they have a relationship and they like being around you. They like you as a person. And number two, that they make you feel heard. That they're listening to you, hearing what you have to say. Exodus 18:13-14 says that the next day Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning till evening. Verse 14, when Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people. So, right, I want to stop it right there. Right, Moses is having this hearing and people are sharing what's going on. And Jethro's on the side looking, observing, and he's seeing for himself. Moses brings Jethro to his workplace and he wants his opinion because he respects him. And why does he respect him? Because he's the priest of Midian. He oversees this giant piece of land and all of these shepherds, and he's intelligent and he's honorable and he cares for his family, which is the third quality that we should look for in a coach, that they have earned your respect. Right? We want to make sure that they have earned your respect. But again, Jethro still doesn't jump in to give his advice. Instead, he begins to ask questions. This is the fourth characteristic of a good coach. They ask good questions. They ask good questions. They don't assume they know everything already. They resist the temptation to jump to conclusions before they have all of the information. They always assume there's something that they do not know or something that they do not see, and so they ask. They ask questions. Don't you hate it when someone offers you advice before they even know what you're trying to accomplish? Like they just come into the conversation, be like, "Oh, I think you should be doing this." I'm like, "You don't even know what I'm doing." Like, "Hello, mind your business." No. They just jump in and begin to give their 2 cents. Listen, good advice aimed at the wrong objective is bad advice. It's simple. Good advice aimed at the wrong objective is simply just bad advice. But again, Jethro is wise. So he is asking the right questions before offering any kind of suggestions. And what makes it even more brilliant is, as helpful as it was for Jethro to hear the answer, it was even more helpful for Moses to wrestle with the question. So I ask, what about you? What about you here today? In your life, in the season that you are in, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? What are your goals? Some of us are just doing things. We're just doing what we think we have to, and we don't stop to ask what our doing is really accomplishing. We find ourselves in this rat race, and it's just do. But we're not really asking ourselves, man, what are we trying to accomplish here? Where are we trying to go? What is our goal? Then the story goes on, and Jethro is asking, what are you really accomplishing here? What are you trying to do all this? Why are you trying to do this all alone while everyone stands around you from morning to evening? So Jethro begins to ask these questions. In other words, is this the wisest way to accomplish your objectives? Is this the wisest way to do what you're trying to accomplish? Are you doing all the work? Because it seems ineffective and exhausting if you're doing all of the work by yourself. Jethro is trying to get Moses to admit that his lifestyle isn't working. So he's asking, why do you keep doing this to yourself? Why do you keep setting yourself up for failure? Like, think about this. Jethro is asking questions, but he doesn't answer the questions for Moses. He allows him to sit and wrestle and talk it through. Friends, that's why you need a coach. You need someone who will lovingly help you slow down and ask the right questions. What am I doing? Is this the best way to do it? Often, without the right person in your life, you won't ask the questions. You won't ask these questions of yourself until it's too late, until you've messed up, until you've taken the wrong turn. Everyone needs someone, often older, who is crazy about them, who believes in them and cares enough about them to wake up, to wake and shake them up, to live and dream big. We all need this person. You see, we need someone to gently spotlight your blind spots, to help you see what you're missing and how you're cheating yourself and your calling accidentally. To say, hey, I think, is this the best way? Do you think that this is the approach you should have? Sometimes we're in it so deep that we cannot see these things. And so we need a coach to be by our side and to speak into these things. These coaches are not afraid to challenge you when you're being mentally, physically, or spiritually lazy or ignorant or undisciplined. Their intent is never to crush you, but to convince you that you can be better and help you make a plan to be better. But again, sometimes we don't like to be critiqued. We don't like to be challenged. We don't like to be told what to do. But their heart is really there to help you be better. Right? They won't allow you to ignore your failures or wallow in your defeat. And the best coaches do this by watching your life, by listening to your words and asking you questions that help you stumble onto your own solutions. And this is what Moses replies back to Jethro in verse 15 and 16. I'm doing this because I have to. Because I have to. So basically, he's like, they need me. I have to. I'm the only one who can do this. And I hate that they need me, but I also love it. This is what a good coach does. They help you come face to face with the faulty core beliefs that are driving your unproductive actions. How many of you love unproductive actions? One person. The census says that more people don't want to be unproductive. Most people want to produce and be productive in their life. And sometimes, I get it, we can't see it all. That's why we need a coach in our lives. You ever been backed into a corner like this by a good coach, right, who keeps asking, and why'd you do that? And why did you think that's true? Until you finally blurt out the thing beneath the thing, that a moment that often surprises even you. Like, oh, wow, yeah. I didn't think about that. Why do you have to do it all? Because I'm the only one who knows how to do it. Why can't someone else do it? Well, they won't do it the right way. Well, why can't they do it slightly different than you? Well, because it has to be perfect. And why does it have to be perfect? Because if things aren't right, then people will get upset and they'll blame me and I feel bad and this whole thing will fall apart and the whole world will just be over. See, now we've gotten somewhere. Now we've gotten to the core. Exodus 18, 17, 18, Jethro says, man, this is not good for you. This is not good for you. Jethro's like, man, what are we doing here? You're not meant to do this alone. You're killing yourself and cheating these people in the process. And I know it's not your intention, but you need to think about where this is headed, what behavior is creating it in you. Another mark of a good coach is that they will calmly challenge you. Jethro is able to zoom out and is like, man, if you continue down this path, this is where it all ends up. And why would a coach know that? Why would a coach know that? Well, they would know that because they're further down the road. They've lived life. They've seen things. They've experienced things. And that's what I try to tell some of my kids. Not some of my kids, all my kids. Like, I know you feel like you conquered the world. And I know that you've accomplished great things in life. But this little fat boy right here has lived a life. Mom and dad have been through some things. We've had some experiences. And we're not trying to say that we're better than you. We're just trying to tell you that, man, we've been through some stuff. And we want you to avoid the pitfalls that we went through. We're not telling you how to live your life. We're just helping you be better and do better because we've been there. We've done that. Right? We've had the experience and the insight that you don't have. And we've been around long enough to see that your patterns, right? Your patterns and where you have the potential to achieve, to go and do. And a good coach knows how to say that to you in the best way for you. Paul wrote in Ephesians 4:29, let everything that you say be good and helpful so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. This is why you and I might not need the same coach. All right, we may not need the same coach on our team. We have different needs and we have different personalities. We have different strengths and we have different weaknesses. We have different default settings and respond differently to different modes of communication. So my coach may not be your coach, and your coach may not be the right coach for me. A good coach doesn't just know good principles and practices. They know the person well enough to know precisely which principles and practices are good for them. You can get a lot of good ideas from a book, a lot of good ideas from a podcast, but you need a good coach to get personal insight that can speak specifically to your situation, to what you are going through. Listen, without a coach, you won't know what's possible or the wisest way to get there. So here's what Jethro tells him to do. It says in verse 20, teach them good decrees and give them his instructions. Show them how to conduct their lives. And so basically what Jethro is doing here, he starts to validate, right? He starts with validation, right? You're right. These people do need you. They can't do it for themselves yet. Your job is to train them so that they eventually can, and that's a process. And that's a process that, unfortunately, you are reluctant to start. This process. I find it interesting that Jethro is coaching Moses on how to be a good coach. He outlines the key components of that process. He tells him, teach. Right? Teach. Here are the values. This is why. Right? Teach them. Instruct. Here are the principles. These are the practices. These are the things, right? These are the practical things that you can do, right? And then he says, show. Show them these are here are the practices. This is what you need to do. I'm telling you how to go. Step A, step B, step C, right? Let's say you value, right? Humility, compassion, and service. These are good, but they're broad. How do you value those things? Well, you value them, right, by bringing up the principles. You need principles. You need to give them principles to help apply those values. For example, we take ownership of how our behavior impacts or affects other people. But how do you do that in a real situation? Well, one practice might be the way you approach an apology. You say something like, I'm sorry, I hurt you. Please forgive me. What can I do to make it right? Do you see how that plays out? These are the steps that you need to do it. In any environment, you'll have a couple of values, a few principles that grow from each value, and several practices that help you apply each principle. Right? Think about it in say, Maddie's term. Well, I want to get stronger. Okay, you want to get stronger, right? What are the values of that? You get stronger through there. You can get quicker. You can get more precise, right? Intentional, right? And these are the things these are the exercises that you can do to get stronger. And there are different ways, tons of different ways, right? In any environment, you'll have a couple of values, right? A few principles and practices, right? Your values should be stable. Your values should be stable, and your practices should be flexible based on a season or the context, which is another characteristic of a good coach, is that they remind you of your values. Remind you of your values. And honestly, this process that Jethro outlines is the best way to build leaders, to disciple believers, and raise children. These are just forms of coaching. And any good coach knows that the goal is to teach those looking to you for support to eventually support themselves so that they can go on and maybe have a protege, and that's a different week, but someone that they can coach later. Friends, this is a principle of growth and maturity in life. To get to a place that's better for you, all in the long term, will require you to commit to a process that's harder in the short term. I'll say that again. To get to a place that's better for you all in the long term requires you to commit to a process that's harder in the short term. Moses does this with Jethro because he believes. He believes, right? Verse 23 says that if you follow this advice, you'll be successful and you won't burn out. Isn't that what we all want? The ability to face hard things, to endure the pressure, and afterward, everyone involved goes home in peace. And you know the advice that you should take if what you're asking if what they're asking you to do aligns up with what Jesus would do, Paul says this, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Right? That's in 1 Corinthians 11:1. Imitate me as I imitate Christ. In other words, only model the parts of your coach that reflect Jesus. Because we all know there are coaches that do great things and they have great qualities, but not everything about that coach will speak into your life. So how do we know what to pick and choose? How do we know what is right or wrong? Well, you imitate how they are imitating Christ. The things that show that Christ is living in them, right? If there are 5 things that they do that are Christ-like, then glean from those things, right? Not the 2 things that don't reflect Christ. Because the truth of the matter is that there are no perfect coaches because there are no perfect people. There are no perfect coaches because there's no perfect people. That's the final mark of a good coach. They give you Christ-like advice. Christ-like advice. They're not just pulling it out of John Wooden's playbook, even though John Wooden was pretty good. They're giving you Christ-like advice. Just because you cannot find a perfect one doesn't mean you don't need one, friends. So here's my homework for you. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Here's my homework for you. Ask someone further down the road than you are to impart your wisdom to you. All right, regularly take their advice. Doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. Doesn't matter what kind of advice that you're looking for. I'm sure there is someone who's experienced some things, who has done some of the things that you are doing, who is living it out, who's doing it right now probably, who has more experience, who has wisdom, that you can reach out and ask, hey, I need some insight. I need some wisdom. You don't got to go out there looking for a coach. I need a coach. You're like crazy. Not a coach. I'm not a coach, right? But there's people in your job. It could be your job. It could be your family. It could be on your team, or it could be your neighbors. People that have done things a little bit longer than you have. If for anything else, they've probably done all the mistakes. And they have wisdom to say, hey, don't do what I did. Let me show you a better way to do it. Stop looking at them like they have nothing to provide or give you. They have a lot. And so I wonder what would happen if we left here trying to find a coach. How would that impact our lives? What would that change for the better? What if you built a healthy relationship with someone who's a little further down the road than you, who likes you, who believes in you, and isn't afraid to challenge you, to push you to greatness? Who wouldn't let you phone in, who regularly reminds you of your potential, who helps you brainstorm new options, who helps you be more efficient, well-rounded, and holistically healthy. Friends, we all need a coach. We all need someone to speak into our life to help us navigate it. Doing it on our own is just too difficult. Just too difficult. So that's your homework. Find someone who's lived a little, been there and done that can speak into your life, who loves you, who wants to see you grow and accomplish incredible things for the Lord. Amen?
South Hills Church, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for watching our service online. Whether you're watching it for the first time or you're watching it again because you enjoyed the service so much from the weekend, I'd like to take a moment and dive into our giving. Every week we give people the opportunity to give back and give to the local church so that God can continue to bless your lives and bless your finances. Here at South Hills, we believe that everything comes from God. We believe that He's the one that chose us and brought us into this world, gave us our gifts and talents and abilities. And I just want you to know that when we give, we are giving back what God has already given to us. If you've ever seen any of our envelopes at a South Hills campus, you'll see on there that it says, every week at South Hills, your generosity is giving people the opportunity to live a better story. And there's a scripture on there in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21 that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I want to encourage you today to click down below and set up your giving, whether it's for the first time or whether you're doing reoccurring giving. We have 4 ways to give here at South Hills. 1, you can do it in person at any of our campuses through an envelope. Or 2, you can actually text any amount that you would like to 84321. And the 3rd way is to download our Church Center app. I encourage you to do this one because the Church Center app gives you opportunity to stay connected with our church and your campuses. It's a great tool and resource for you to know what's going on. And the 4th way to give is to give online. You can go to southhills.org/give and you can set up your giving there. Whether you're a guest of our church or whether you are a member of our church, or whether you simply just like to watch our services, I encourage you to trust God with your finances so that He can bless and anoint your finances and you can be trusting God in this journey of living life to the fullest. I love you and thank you for watching our online service today.